starting a podcast for B2B brands even worth it? I mean, there must be something to it because companies like Gong, Drift, and IBM has started podcast shows in the past few years. It's why the Cassette team has created the B2B Maturity Curve, a framework that can help you amplify your podcast and measure its impact as a sales enablement tool. Today, Kate DeGroot, the director of the management at Cassette, digs into the B2B podcast maturity curve. In this Marketing Powerups episode, you'll learn first the benefits of starting a podcast as a B2B brand. Second, the 5 stages of the B2B podcast maturity curve. Third, an example of a great B2B podcast show. And number 4, how to hone your marketing instincts and how that has helped Kate accelerate her career. Now, before I continue, I've created a free Powerups cheat sheet that you can download, fill in, and apply Cass's B2B podcast maturity curve to your own show. Get it on marketingpowerups.com right now or find that link in the show notes and description. Well, are you ready? Let's go.
Marketing Powerups. Ready? Here's your host, Ramli John.
I know typically podcast is more of a consumer media where you have like personalities doing comedy sketches and murder mysteries. But like in the recent years, B2B brands have really like picked it up. Companies like Gong, Salesforce, and even Drift, where they've doubled down on using podcasting as a pillar to their content strategy. I'm curious, what are some reasons why B2B brands should be doing podcasts as part of their content strategy?
B2B companies that really employ podcasting well will see 89% higher awareness of their brand, 57% higher brand consideration, 24% higher brand favorability, 14% higher purchase intent, and 16% higher engagement. I don't know why if you hear those stats, why you wouldn't want to use podcasting for B2B
Right.
marketing. But there's also 52 million households that listen to podcasts. And how many of those are people who work in your target companies? So yeah, there's a lot to it.
All those stats make sense. There's the brand loyalty and engagement. And when people listen to podcasts, like there's the stickiness factor. Usually when they start it, they listen all the way through. But even for companies I worked at, there's some hesitancy in the B2B leaders who are like, should we do podcasts? Let's stick with what's tried and true. Vlogging, SEO, maybe a little video. What are some concerns or some pushbacks that you've heard from B2B leaders around starting a podcast? Even though when you share the stats, like, yeah, it makes sense. There's statistics that show it is. But what are some reasons you've heard that B2B leaders say, hey, let's not do this, or like they're hesitant about it?
From what I've heard so far, it has been something more like we can't prove the value. We can't prove that people are listening to it, and we can't attribute that to our pipeline. Which is actually where Casted, we've kind of bridged that gap there. We have the ability to grab metrics that no other platform can. So, and also, move those names you can see down to like a granular level, like who's listening, and you can see those in your CRM. So like we've tried to combat that because we do know that podcasting is such a powerful tool. And we want to give these amazing tools to the broader audience. But yeah, it comes down to not being able to see what is actually coming of it. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to find your guest and record and put it into, go have it produced and then break it down into pieces and market it. It does take a lot of time, but it is so worth it.
In terms of worth it, you're totally right. I think ROI wise, I think the other thing that I would add to the return on that investment is that it's such a great piece of content that can be repurposed in so many ways. Like even at Casted, I see like video snippets and podcast. It can be turned into a newsletter. It can be turned into a blog post. So it really could become a core and a pillar to the content strategy. And that's maybe where the return could be around. Like now, you even have expert quotes that people in the SEO world loves because there's credibility there, and it really does add to that. Is what I'm also hearing there.
So, I mean, first of all, we have a theory or a methodology that we call amplified marketing, which is breaking down all of the pieces. So we take the video content or the podcasting content or even webinars and turn them into podcasts. And then we take those transcripts and we turn them into blog posts. We
Nice.
turn them into cornerstone
Yeah.
content. And then also we will take the key takeaways and post those as social posts to gain awareness and visibility of this podcast that we just put out. So we definitely do that. But then, yeah, the SEO side of it, that's so important. And I think so many people don't recognize that podcasting can be so great for your SEO and your discoverability. We have some good friends over at Demand Jump in Indianapolis. They specialize in pillar-based marketing. So you're making this one pillar page. It's such a long
Right.
page, but you're using your top keywords that you want to be found for, right? But you're using them throughout this piece. And you can do that in your podcast as well. And if you have a really good hosting site, you should be able to use those keywords in there as well. Obviously, then when you use your transcription, those keywords are available in there. And you just it's such a great tool. Like, I love podcasting. I love SEO and podcasting. It's so exciting, like where we're moving
Right.
in this content-led approach.
I love that. I really love how one of the challenges for podcasts is discoverability. With YouTube, there's like the search engine. With text, there's the Google search and search other search engines. Podcast is a little bit harder and it's kind of a little bit fragmented. I love that there's this approach that you're taking this audio content and creating a pillar piece around it. What are some results that they've seen around like using this approach where cutting up the pieces, using that amplified marketing approach that you mentioned, and then creating a pillar piece around it?
We work with them because we want to be page one all the time. And actually their podcast is called Page One or Bust. So, and it's
I love
hosted
it.
by Casted. So I would totally listen to that. But that's the important part. I have a whole list of keywords that I want Casted to be found for. And that can be really difficult in just your basic blog post. Instead, I'm saying I want to be found for B2B podcasting. It's a whole new
Mm.
category that we have to create, and that's a challenge in and of itself. So, creating these pillar pages and then the supporting pillars that all link back, with linking then to your podcast and linking to the other blog posts, and then linking to the embeds actually that you're putting in your blog post. It really does boost your discoverability. Google really seems to like this methodology.
I love that. I totally love that. I want to talk. I want to go back to the ROI piece that you mentioned around podcasting. Your team at Casted has created this B2B podcast maturity curve that kind of outlines like a step of a B2B brand as they progress through starting a podcast and using that as that pillar, as that amplified piece of content that's really content led.
Mhm.
What is this B2B maturity, B2B podcast maturity curve, and the stages that's involved in it?
Drawing from our own experience with our customers, over the last 4 years, we've created this community or this maturity curve to communicate with the market about the 5 stages that go into um, really brand adoption through podcasting. So you have stage 1, which is channel experimentation. It's really just having this idea. We are going to play with this, see what it's like. It's not necessarily having the tools quite yet. And then we have stage 2, which is show creation. And that's where you start investing in a good microphone.
Nice.
That's where you start investing in a good
Studio.
pair of
Right,
headphones.
true.
Yeah. that's where you go from possibly recording on Zoom to using Riverside or another tool very much like that. And then we get into stage 3, which is usually the bottleneck of the entire maturity curve. This is audience growth.
Right.
Everybody wants to have a big audience, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know what to do with it once they achieve that audience that they dream of. So this is where production becomes really, really important. This is where SEO starts to become really, really
Right.
important. And this is where you have to learn about who your audience is. No longer can you make assumptions about who they are. You have to have the data and you have to know what attracts them, what episodes, what part of the episodes they're listening to and going back to. And, you almost need a heat map really to be able to see that. But that's the biggest piece. And then once you can break through stage 3, you hit stage 4, which is multi-channel expansion. And this is where you absolutely just blow up. This is also where your podcast is no longer just a podcast, it's part of your brand. And you know, it becomes synonymous with your brand, really. And then there's one more, and there actually may be 2. We've been talking about,
Interesting.
as we're learning more about our customers and where they're going. But then you move on to 5, which is marketing
Right.
amplification, and revenue. And this is where really people come to you as the industry leader, as the subject matter expert. And this is where your leads come from. This is where those hot leads will come from. And you're going to have your CTAs in this. And really, you should have CTAs throughout
Right.
all of your podcasts. But this is where it becomes really, really important. And you're driving revenue with your podcast.
I love that it's not just impressions. It's not just like listens. You actually want to drive towards that end goal for a lot of marketing teams, a lot of leaders of in B2B. Is that how do we get the people who are listening to this to eventually be interested in us, sign up for a demo or sign up for a free trial, and finally become a customer? And that's essentially what that curve is leading towards. Is what I'm hearing with this.
Exactly. And this is the same methodology that we use. Actually, Cheetah Digital, they are one of our clients, and we do a lot of interviews with our clients just to find out, how things are going, grab some swipeable content from them, some swipeable language, always listening to Caitlin and taking her ideas and putting them into practice. And then, so when we were having that conversation with him and he was talking about our videograms and our audiograms, and how to find the right audience, I think he said something like, it's not about getting in front of 10,000 people to make a sale. It's about getting in front of the right 10 people.
I love
And
that.
that is so, so true. They saw some crazy outcomes. Like we're talking in like the millions of dollars range. They saw some crazy outcomes from following the amplified marketing methodology and the B2B podcast maturity curve. So we know it works. And it's something that we actually are setting out to teach our customers and people who aren't our customers. We just really want to get this out there because B2B podcasting is going to be huge over the next 10 years. And we've done the research and we've seen some of these numbers. And we're all about getting in, right now. So
Before I continue, I want to thank the sponsor for this episode, 42 Agency. Now, when you're in scale-up growth mode and you have to hit your KPIs, the pressure is on to deliver demos and signups, and it's a lot to handle. There's demand gen, email sequences, RevOps, and more. And that's where 42 Agency, founded by my good friend Camille Rexton, can help you. They're a strategic partner that's helped B2B SaaS companies like Profitwell, Teamwork, Sprout Social, and HubDoc to build a predictable revenue engine. If you're looking for performance experts and creatives to solve your marketing growth problems today and help you build the foundations for the future, Look no further. Visit 42agency.com to talk to a strategist right now to learn how you can build a high-efficiency revenue engine, or you can also find that link in the show notes and description. I want to thank the sponsor for this episode, Casted. Now, B2B brands that have a podcast close deals 30% faster than those that don't. But with tight marketing budget and increasing competitions of other shows on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, how do you prove and maximize your podcast and video ROI? That's where Casted comes in. It's a podcast, video, and audio marketing platform for B2B brands to grow your audience and significantly impact the bottom line. Match your podcast audience to known contacts in your CRM so that you can uncover actual brands interested in your content and huge key for your customers. You can also get one-click clips, auto transcription, listener intel, and the best customer experience you've ever had. Leading B2B brands like Salesforce, Gong, Drift, and IBM trust Casted to maximize the value of their content and amplify it across their channels. You can request a demo right now for Casted at casted.us or find that link in the description. Well, let's get back to the episode. I love that. I really love that. What you said, that person said that it's not about getting 10,000 listens, and often that is like a false metric to follow, or like a vanity metric to follow for B2B brands. Is like, if that's probably more of a consumer thing where they're trying to get ad space, where the more listens you have, the more valuable your podcast is. But for B2B brands, like a few handful, you mentioned 10, just 10 good ones is enough to close a deal that could be worth, like you mentioned, millions of dollars. Is exactly what I'm hearing here. And I want to reiterate that. Would you say that this approach is probably more for like higher annual contract value products versus like ones that are more like lower price, like Canva, or more $10 a month? You probably would need a little bit more listeners to close with that, rather than, let's say, a product that costs like $10,000 a year.
Our customers tend to have products that have a higher ACV, but companies like Canva, they have a lot to say. They have a lot of knowledge to share. And I could definitely see them doing quite well with this, getting those social shares, getting the engagement. Oh my gosh. And just think about like all of the videograms that they could be putting out there on LinkedIn, with new techniques, just teaching. And, that's part of what we do as B2B marketers. We're out here trying to teach our audience, not just about our product, but how to do their jobs better and more efficiently. So I think, honestly, I think it would work for both sides.
That makes sense. Even you mentioned that they have something to say. I think that's super important nowadays with a lot of the stuff that Google has been updating, where they're putting a lot more emphasis on ones that have an opinion, something that even AI can't write. Even though we have AI, you probably can get a generic opinion or blog post, but somebody who has an opinion or a point of view in the market, that's something that you can really embed in your podcast, and interview people who are doing that. We've seen Drift really do that with conversational marketing, and Gong really do that with revenue intelligence, where they're like owning a piece of word. And that's exactly what I'm hearing with this, is that it's not just content. It's actually potentially a thought leadership play that could, really help you close deal faster, because now they know you for that term, is exactly what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also with like ChatGPT, like there is so much more written content that is just making so much noise in our normal channels that we go to. Um, and that's where, podcasting is absolutely wonderful. You're getting your real authentic voice out there. And really that's, as we have millennials moving up into higher management roles, that's really what this whole generation is looking for. Authenticity, being real. It's huge, and it's only going to become more important over time. So yeah, we've got to break through that noise. We've got to get our really valid opinions and points of view out there. And that, I feel like the only way to do that is video and audio content.
Interesting. That's so true. I think people want to see people want. I forgot who said it. I think it's Pep from Winter, where he said that the top most followed brands or companies or people in LinkedIn and TikTok are 89%, 90% of them are like faces. They're people, they're brands, and the people follow people. They don't necessarily follow brands, and putting a face in front of a brand humanizes that brand. Whether that's a voice through audio, but you mentioned video as well, where now you're seeing a real person that like they know you. They can attach like Kate and Casted or Ramli with marketing Powerups, or Devin with used to be Gong, but now it's Clary. Like things like that. It really humanizes the brand with having an audio and video podcast. Right here, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about your process. You mentioned earlier that you take a podcast, take the transcript, turn it into a blog post. Can you share a little bit more about that amplification process, or where you're taking
Yeah.
that audio or video content and then breaking it up? Like, what do you do specifically for a Casted show or clients or customers of Casted, and what you advise them to do with their show?
Yeah. So being a digital marketer, my way is a little bit different. But like if we took this recording from today and uploaded it into Casted, all of it would be there. We'd have our premium transcription service, like write out everything, just everything. And then usually my content guy will go ahead and take that transcript and turn it into a blog. Like he won't just put, Kate said this and then Ramley said this. And, he won't
Right.
just do that, but he'll take all of these ideas in the order, in the flow that we're doing this. And he will turn it into something just really, really useful, really great long form content. And then from there, we're probably going to have at least 3 different topics that we start talking about. So we'll break those down into our key takeaways, right? And so then he'll write blog posts about those 3 key takeaways that all link back into that first initial long form content. And then, basically we do the same thing with the actual video and audio content. So you can go into Casted and you can say, okay, this is that first key takeaway. Highlight in our transcript exactly where that is, where it starts, where it ends. And instantly you've just created a clip, right?
Nice.
And so you'll create a couple of those, maybe export them as a videogram with like a custom frame, something really, really pretty that shows your brand, and collect all of those. And then when you are ready to go ahead and show the world what you've created, that is when, you do that little teaser the day before. I think we've all seen that
Mm,
where we're already thanking the guest. And then you can even put, your little teaser intro video up there to get everybody excited and get that buzz going. And then you put out your podcast and you go through all the major RSS channels and it's out there. It's
mm,
live, but nobody really knows about it unless you're sending out that newsletter.
right. Mm,
And a lot of times we use embedded video or audio in there to kind of get everybody enticed to go over and listen to the actual podcast. But then also, use those video and audiograms to go ahead and find more people. Put them in the groups on LinkedIn that your target
right.
is hanging out in. Put them on social. Put them everywhere you possibly can. We actually have a TikTok frame
I was
now,
gonna say that.
so you
I
can
was gonna ask
take
that.
those.
TikTok. Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So now you can export for TikTok and you can fuel your content strategy on TikTok, right? So now you just have like this entire content calendar just jam
Right.
packed with so many different pieces from one
Mm,
podcast. It's it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But then also, from there you need to be looking at all of your metrics and all of your data and how do you measure what's happening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on, all of these other players that are not necessarily the one that you're uploading to. And so that's something that we built because we had that
Nice.
question too. My CEO was a VP of marketing at a global company, and she built their first podcast, and she came into that issue. She had to prove that people not just coming to the one player that they had on their website, but also at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like what their consumption was actually like. So we built that because of her need. Um, but it's so critical to growing your podcast, and especially in the ways of breaking it up. So most people don't know this, but we actually can get um, the data from those clips, and we put it in your dashboard.
Nice.
And those clips can be anywhere, but we get data from Spotify. We know more than just how many downloads you've had. We know firmographic and we know psychographic data, right? Because they hold on to all of that information in their databases, and we're one of the lucky few that gets to access that and share it with our customers to help them make better data-driven decisions.
I really love what you just mentioned. Exactly what I see happening is that, people don't realize how powerful like an audio or video podcast is in terms of fueling a content count, where, one piece of content can help you last for a month. And now if you're doing a weekly show, if you do like a series where it's only, a season with only 10 episodes, you're probably good for like 6 months. And I think that's the power of this, is like continually repurposing it into different formats is one way that you can increase your reach, but as well as see that impact that you mentioned, how you're pulling on the data and pulling it into cast it, make sure that there's impact there. I love it. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing this. I actually want to shift gears and talk about career power-ups. You've been in marketing now for over 15 years, and I'm curious what's a career power-up that's helped you accelerate your career, that's helped you level up and go forward and become a better marketer than you were previously?
Never stop learning. That has been something that has been huge for me. Like, I remember when I started learning about PLG, and that's when I found out about you. And, now I have my certification, and I've helped a company go from sales led to product led.
Nice.
And now they're doing fantastic. Like, it's great. But never stop learning, and never, ever, ever say that's not my job.
Right. So
Um,
good.
because at some point, in some way, it is. And you're also going to learn how to apply whatever it is to marketing. And especially if it's in your company, um, maybe it's a question that you have to answer for your CX team, but now you know what questions you need to address in your marketing to, reduce those objections that may be coming in. So
I really love that around like never stop learning. And actually that's how we met for people that who were tuning in when I was with West Bush at Product Led. I don't remember how we connected. Was it Twitter, LinkedIn? You reach out or I reach out? It was a while back, but you ended up joining Product Led's course, and I was leading that course at that time. That's how we actually met. Was you pursuing that desire to learn more about product led growth, and now you've helped the company around that. So that's pretty awesome.
yeah. And then, also that was about the time that you were writing your book on onboarding, product led onboarding. And, I was one of your pre-readers on that as well.
Thank you.
And, even my company now, like I've shared that book with them, and we're employing your strategies in there as well.
Thank you so much for that plug. It's always like really hard
No
for me
problem.
to plug myself. Shameless plug. But I appreciate
Glad I
that.
could help.
Yeah. Even though few people tuning on this via video, there's like a picture of the book up on my left shoulder. But I thank you. I appreciate you, Kate, for providing that feedback. I want to ask you one last question around an advice you give your younger self? If you can go back in time or send a message through time 15 years ago to that Kate who's just starting out in marketing, what advice would you give? And it could be around career, it could be around marketing, it could be around life. what one or two pieces of
Oh my
advice
gosh.
would you give that younger Kate?
Wow, I could go all day on this one. But everything, your instincts are right. Don't let anyone tell you that your instincts aren't correct. And then, oh my gosh, what else that is safe for podcasting? But you know, it was quite a struggle to get where I'm at today. And I had to push.
Right.
And I had to push really hard to get where I'm at. But something that I had to learn was do it with kindness.
Right.
And do it with respect. And but don't let people tell you that your ideas aren't good enough, because they are, and they are going to do some spectacular things for your life.
Like the first one as well, like trust your instincts. I think that applies to like career, it applies to relationships, it applies to, in terms of like what marketing campaigns you should run. Like usually, I was talking to Eddie Schlainer about this. He's from Very Good Copy. And as you like consume content, like you have this, like he called it spidey sense, the marketing sense, where like whether it's like, it could be a good or bad thing, where like your sense is telling you like this is the right path versus like this is not the right path. And once again, it could apply to a job, flags, you walk away, or like a campaign. It's like how you just feels, you don't have the data to back it up necessarily, but you have a feeling that this is going to make an impact around your work and people around you. So,
and actually, that was my biggest growth point. I was working for actually my alma mater back in Illinois, and I had absolutely no data to work with on digital marketing. I was the first person in the digital marketing seat. And I was designing everything. I had no idea what I was doing, which here's another one. Do it anyway. There's another piece of advice. But, I had no data. And I actually came up with one of those unicorn campaigns.
Nice.
And that was the year that this university went from all-time record low enrollment to all-time record high enrollment. And it's like... it's just one of those things. I was like, this is going to be so good. And it was. But I had nothing that would lead me to that.
Well, that was a fun chat. If you want to learn more about Casted, you can go to casted.us, or you can follow Kate on LinkedIn and Twitter. All of those links are in the show notes and description down below. Thank you to Kate for being on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, you'd love the Marketing Powerups newsletter. I share the actionable takeaways and break down the frameworks of world-class marketers. Go to marketingpowerups.com to subscribe, and you'll instantly unlock the 3 best frameworks that top marketers use to hit their KPIs consistently and wow their colleagues. I want to say thank you to you for listening, and please like and follow Marketing Powerups on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you feel extra generous, kindly leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on YouTube. It goes a long way in others finding out about Marketing Powerups. Thanks to Mary Sullivan for creating the artwork and design, and thank you to Faisal Kaigo for editing the intro video. And of course, thank you for listening. That's all for now. Have a powered up day.
Marketing Power-Ups. Until the next episode,